Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Matt Darn Kitte.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world. Each segment will cover what happens in each new chapter while discussing our experience along the way.
This is The Hero of Ages. It's all in the pages, a blind read-through. And today we are covering Chapter 40.
Chapter 40!
Yes. A quick update on my progress through Save the Cat Writes a Novel. I'm enjoying it for the most part. The prose is fairly easy to understand. Like, it's not like some dry text you have trouble concentrating on. A lot of the concepts in the book are things that I have already heard and have been made aware of, I guess. Nevertheless, I think the act of reading it rather than listening to YouTube videos, say, does make it settle a bit differently. But frequently there are little quips here and there that make me feel a little bit as if the person speaking to me is treating me like a child. And I don't know that I love that, but if it prevents the book from being dry, I think that's a net positive. It talks about basic story structure, the status quo world, the debate being thrust into Act 2, and then it runs through several what she calls genres, but I think Brandon Sanderson would call them plot structures, more like. This is an underdog story. This is a superhero story. This is a man against the institution story. She calls them genres, and I guess I have a weird time accepting the word genre here. But all in all, it's helpful, and it is inspiring me to want to continue on with my series on this channel of trying to write that speedrunning book, the book about a speedrunner who enters a competition. So maybe if I'm feeling uniquely gung-ho about it, I'll do a live stream where I try to use the Save the Cat structure to accomplish it.
Do it. Do it, do it, do it.
How is your reading going?
It's not at the moment. I've been way too busy. So I've just been covering what we do here.
Nice. Fair.
It's just that I'm tired when I get home, and I should just at least read a chapter at night, even if it's just a little. But the book I'm reading is heavy, so it's tough.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it takes effort to go to bed tired, but stay up long enough to read, and then to not be too tired to actually comprehend what you're reading.
Exactly. I don't want to forget what I've read.
Yeah. Before we started recording, Kitty, you had an aha moment I want you to share.
Yes, I was watching a video on the Gnostic Bibles, which are just a collection of texts that didn't make it into the canonical Bible, and they present a different view of Christianity, etc., etc. And within them, they've got the idea of aeons, and they represent that they're from the gods, and they represent concepts, ideals, things like that we had in Elantris. So I was like, oh, okay. So this is where Brandon Sanderson got this idea, which is pretty cool. It's just cool to do the meme and point at the TV and go like, hey, Anna, hey, I seen that. So yeah, I need to read them Gnostic Bibles to see what other connections I can make.
Nice. Yeah, that's not an area that I know anything about.
Me neither. Hence the video. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Other than that, we get quite a chapter. We get an answer as to why the communication between the army and Penrod has not been as good as one might hope.
Yeah. The poop has hit the fan.
Quite. My favorite part of the chapter comes at the very end of the chapter. A lot of the early part of this chapter was a little weird for me in the sense that it's like, this is all stuff we know, or at least much of it is stuff we know, which is good, but it's also like a little gloss over my head I felt very much for Set here in this chapter, in the sense that it's like, okay, it's more rules. Got it. Move on to story now. And like, it's the repetition of these facts that will eventually get them to sink in. Like, it did take me a while to understand the rules of allomancy as outlined in book 1, but I got there eventually, more or less.
And you know that people like me are out there that will forget things. So we do need that repetition. And also, the characters themselves didn't know this stuff. We needed them to figure it out. So them going over it and thinking out loud is them figuring it out, because they couldn't just know it out of nowhere. We are reading again, we're doing it currently in Words of Radiance, we are reading epigraphs that are written in the future. We've got that. It seems like that's what's going on here as well. So we need to see the characters come to the conclusions we've already been told.
Yeah. And it's interesting, serendipitous. This week I was listening to videos on YouTube of Steven Erikson. I believe he's the writer of many of the Malazan books, which I've been meaning to pick up for a while now. One of the videos that he is in, he talks about how there does seem to be this audience for hard world building, hard magic systems, an audience of people who like want to know every intricate detail of how these worlds function. As I understand it, this is not Erikson's style, but he acknowledges how much people do like this kind of world building.
I like both. I can deal with both.
Yeah.
If they're written in certain ways.
It's like, how do you want to use magic in this world? And how necessary is it to the story that we know these things?
Does it lean on that vagueness too much? Because that in a soft magic system, that's a problem. I don't like that.
Yeah. Anyway, why don't we actually get into the chapter, shall we? I admit the opening to this epigraph was a bit of a head-scratcher for me. It starts, originally we assumed that a Kolos was a combination of two people into one. That was wrong. Kolos are not the melding of two people, but 5, as evidenced by the 4 spikes needed to make them. Not 5 bodies, but 5 souls. So, particularly before that portion about souls, I was confused by that it required 2 people at all. I guess I jumped the boat a little bit. I thought it was like you put the spikes in the person and then the person transforms. Editor Dorkus here to try and articulate a bit better that I suppose I didn't really consider killing someone with a spike to charge it with powers of hemalurgy to be combining that person with the person you're making a Kolos into. Once the initial person charging the spike is dead, I've kind of like removed him from the equation a bit. But the way it's worded here, it reads to me like some sort of Dragon Ball Z fusion, which I don't think is what's happening. It's sort of saved by the, well, actually we mean souls of it, if that's how you want to interpret using the spike to kill someone and take the sliver of preservation.
That's also part of the Gnostic Bibles, by the way. The idea that each human has a sliver of the divine in them. That's the whole thing, the whole secret that Jesus came to tell people.
Neat.
So that whole idea, I think it's not that I'm saying that Brandon Sanderson believes these things. It's just that these are narratives and ideas that he could have gotten from there.
Sure.
But so here as well, it's not that you need to kill 4 people every time. You can reuse those sparks. The captured souls are in there already, and we just had Tensoon doing that as well.
Yeah,
picking it up. It's not that you have to kill every single time you place sparks.
Yes. So that's good. At least once the deed is done, you can reuse spikes.
Yeah.
We also get that it's specifically blessing of potency spikes that make the Kolos.
And that's what makes them basically grow out of their skin. It just distorts them because they're just not supposed to have times 2 blessing of potency, I suppose.
Yeah, and
it's all just corrupt. Ugh.
Yeah, and we learn that it messes with the mind. I wonder what happens if you stop at 1 spike, or 2 or 3 rather than 5.
Mm-hmm.
Really, this epigraph is appropriate for this chapter because the big theme of this chapter is what's up with the Inquisitors, and how does it fit into the grand design, if you will, of what's happening.
Yeah.
It opens on Elend having his usual meeting with the crew, with Set, with Norden, and the mostly recuperated Demio. And this is them preparing to tell them what they learned about the Kolos by starting with the Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows how the Inquisitors were made, but there were lots of theories. It's important to note that they do call attention to the fact that the Inquisitors remember who they were.
Whereas it seems the Kolos do not.
Right.
They don't have much.
Yeah, and I'm...
left in there.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to guess it takes more spikes to make an Inquisitor than a Kolos, if you need a spike per power.
Mm. And it's not like a reused one either.
Yeah.
Like it seems like whenever they make an Inquisitor, it is with fresh Allomancers.
Yes. I believe it's better or easier when power is taken from someone who already had the ability.
Mm-hmm.
Set very much plays the foil in this chapter with the constant, what does any of this matter?
No, we don't care.
It gets me more annoyed with Set than anything in this chapter. It's like all he does is exist in this chapter to be the naysayer.
We should get Rock to kick him.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong story.
But Ellen says, no, this is important. We're not just at war with Yeoman. We are also at war with the end of the world. And
Set still doesn't believe that. He's still struggling with that whole idea. It's just like, really? You really think that? It's like, oh, okay, you're just saying it's climate change, essentially, is what you're thinking it is. Okay, cool.
Precisely. Then we get a really wonderful comparison. Norden is very good at explaining to a layman what is
I loved it.
Yeah, me too. What is so unusual and how they know it's unusual. He basically says, if you hear a tapping on your door or on your tent flap or whatever, and there's a certain degree of chaotic untimeliness to the tapping, you're more inclined to think it's just the branches of a tree or the pitter-patter of rain, that kind of thing. But if the tapping is happening at regular intervals, you are more likely to think that it is someone purposefully tapping for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they're seeing in the numbers. It's not random.
Yeah.
It has something behind it, something intelligent behind it.
Yes. And I think one of my favorite things about this chapter is that we finally get Elend and Norden embracing this. They finally accept that something is important to know here. They're no longer sloughing it off.
Yeah, they're convincing other people now.
Yeah.
They're explaining it to other people now, not just, okay, Vin, sure, we'll just entertain you for a second, fine. So yeah, I love that too.
Yep. Set wonders if it's a person, and Norden doesn't necessarily think so, but he does think it is something intelligent with an agenda, or something that cares, to be precise.
Yes, it's a someone-ish thing.
Precisely. Demio asks how this relates to the Inquisitors, and Norden shares what he can, which is pretty much just based off of rumors. They said that an Inquisitor was a fusion of many different people. In order to make an Inquisitor, the Canton of Inquisition had to get a whole group of Allomancers, then combine their powers into one. Again, we get that word fusion, which strikes me less like we're killing this other person and putting his power in you, and speaks more in my mind to an effusion, to a merging of the consciousnesses.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, I also got the idea, wait, so you're telling me there's remnants of those people in... That's what it feels like. It feels like that's what we're supposed to take. But then, after being in Marsh's POV, you don't get a sense that there are other people in there. It's still Marsh.
Yeah, just that he's being controlled.
Yeah. And we have the same thing with Spook. Like, Spook is still Spook.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing Spook plus something completely new. It's we've got Calcia's voice, but we don't have
Spook plus the soldier
character
that got speared.
Yeah.
The other thing is, because I have this, I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance or not, just my interpretation of what hemalurgy has been versus the words that are being used here or not. But when Vin used the malatium, I think it was called, the 11th metal, in the first book, she saw an Inquisitor, or rather what the Inquisitor could have been. She didn't see 5 people or 6 people or 7 people. She saw the one.
I guess we couldn't have that because then it would reveal too much.
Yeah.
Couldn't have the 5. But yeah, so it seems like, the souls, their powers go through, but not their consciousness. They're dead. They're gone.
Yeah. So it's an interesting shift of language. And I can't quite say that it's like, no, these characters are getting it slightly wrong, and that's okay, because characters can be wrong sometimes, because it's also kind of written like this in the epigraph as well, which is presumably from a place of all-knowing. This could be plot expansion or a reveal.
Or it could just be words, just using the word combine.
Yeah.
Putting together, that's all they're doing.
Yeah. Ham finally puts it together that this is why the Inquisitors were so gung-ho about hunting down Ska Mistings. It was so that they could continue to make other Inquisitors.
Yeah, that too.
Indeed. As Vin is going to pipe in a little bit, they had some time with Marsh post-Inquisitor transformation, so this shouldn't be entirely new info for Ham, I think.
Yeah, but we need the exposition.
True.
So he needs to say it out loud.
Yeah. Elend defines it. Somehow those spikes in the Inquisitors' bodies transfer allomantic ability. You kill 8 Mistings, and you give all their power to one other man, such as Marsh. Sazed once told me that Marsh was always hesitant to speak of the day he was made an Inquisitor, but he did say that it was messy. And Ham reminds us of what happened when they found the room that Marsh was made an Inquisitor in. It was messy. This is actually a fairly good, non-obtrusive way of reminding us what happened in book 1, which I like.
Yeah, nice and relevant. Like, oh yeah, Marsh did attack Sazed.
Yep. Also, let's not forget, Vin's sister died messily.
And we're still waiting for that to be revealed. We've had that theory for a while now.
Yeah.
It's seeing more and more and seeming more and more like a sure thing.
Yeah, especially with the repetition of the word messy here.
Yeah.
Set again asks what the point of all of this is. We get a nice jab from Ham. Well, it seems to be doing a good job of annoying you. Do we need any other point? I chuckled.
Yeah, let's just annoy you. Yes. Ham's just got a new friend to annoy, so he's carrying on his banter.
Yeah.
With old Set there.
Yep. And this is when Vin does the Kolos reveal, which Set thinks is absurd. And this is really where I start to get frustrated with Set. For half a second, I was like, oh, I hope Set doesn't take that personally after Ham's jab. But no, this whole chapter, he's just like, this doesn't matter. I don't see the point of this. This is absurd. Come on, Set.
Like, look what's happening around you. I don't know if there's room for doubt here.
Yeah, get on board, please. Apparently, it's been a couple of days since the end of the last chapter, and Vin has had time to check other Kolos for the spikes, and speak to some of them, and human a bit more as well.
Mm.
Elend reaffirms the mystery that no one had known where Kolos came from. It was one of the great mysteries of our time, as he puts it. And I was like, that is a great line. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Elend reminds the group that during the siege in Book 2, the Kolos went off and attacked a random village, and they realized they must have done it because they needed to replenish their numbers. Do you remember a random village being attacked in Book 2? It feels like a thing that happened, but I don't have a specific memory of when.
No, it absolutely has. Yay, I remembered something. It absolutely did. That's where they got the people's clothing from. Remember, we were so disturbed that they had clothing on, and it was and it was weirdly put on and everything like that. That's when it happened.
Right. So,
woo, for once I remembered something.
Yay! And with that, I say that I really, really liked that. That's a great payoff to that.
Mm.
Elend explains how Vin got the information. Elend says, the other day, Vin finally got one of them to show her how to make new Kolos. From what he did, and from what he's said since, we believe that he was going to try to combine two men into one. Again, that language, it's continuing the fusion language.
Yeah. It's just we're combining the life and power of one with the other. It's not the consciousness.
Yeah. And then we get another excellently concise description from Ham as they discover what hemalurgy is. Ham says, a third art, a third way to use the metals. There's allomancy, which draws power from the metals. There's feruchemy, which uses metals to draw power from your own body. And there is
hemalurgy,
which uses the metals to draw power from someone else's body. Two things I experience here. One, as I've just said, is how much I appreciate the conciseness of one is from others, one is from oneself, and one is from metal. That was neat.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, this far in, so much of this is like, I already know all of this. I know it's important for all of the characters to come together and be on the same page about it, but this far in, it feels like we're dedicating a whole chapter to stuff that has already been learned. And I don't know what to do about that, or like what to think of that.
I knew you were gonna find a problem with it. But yeah, the fact that the characters need to do it is good enough for me, because yeah, it does definitely read like, here's your exposition dump, but they need it, so I'm okay with it. Fair. And I like recaps, you know me.
True. We get Set, who is very surly. 2 words. Great, Set said. Point? The Lord Ruler created servants to help him, Elend said. Using this art, this hemalurgy, he made soldiers, the Kolos. He made spies, the Kandra. And he made priests, the Inquisitors. He built them all with weaknesses so that he could control them. At this point, I think to myself that up to this point, I had imagined that it was the spike out the back that was the weakness of the Inquisitors. But now I'm thinking, can Vin control the Inquisitors with Duralumin and Soothing? Have they tried?
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm like a bit jazzed about this whole thing, because this comes at the end there. This comes at, okay, we know all of this now they put it together for us. He puts it together and says, this means you could control the Inquisitors.
Right.
I don't know if that's correct, but it makes sense that they should try that. What it means to us is that they're susceptible to ruin. They can be spoken to by ruin and controlled by ruin.
Yeah, so I think ruin is the other end of this particular equation, in the sense that before ruin was released, I feel like Vin could have controlled an Inquisitor. But because ruin has been released and he is actively exerting a tremendous amount of control, relatively speaking, upon each of the Inquisitors, I think it will be harder than not to exert that control from Vin to an Inquisitor.
I also find it interesting that Ruin is not directly controlling Kolos. He's controlling Inquisitors who control the Kolos. Unless that's not confirmed, it's just assumed. But what's the use of the Inquisitor otherwise?
True. Well, presumably for more subtle tasks. Because you can't just brute force everything.
Yeah.
We get a recap of how Vin learned to control the Kolos. Demio doesn't see where Vin and Elend are going with this. Elend reasserts that the Inquisitors must have the same weakness. This hemalurgy leaves the mind wounded. It allows an Allomancer to creep in and take control. The nobility always wondered what made the Inquisitors so fanatically devoted to the Lord Ruler. They weren't like ordinary obligators. They were far more obedient, zealous to a fault. Ooh, there's a word, zealous.
Well, we'll get on to the discussion when we get to Demir.
Sounds good. They talk about Marsh and how he changed after having been made an Inquisitor, and then how he changed progressively even more in the year that followed. Now, I thought that is less an element of having been changed into an Inquisitor and more about Ruin's power growing and the influence that he had over Marsh. It had over Marsh.
Yeah. That's what I think it is too. They just don't know that currently, or they aren't sure of it yet.
Right. We get the line, what we're suggesting is that something is controlling the Inquisitors and the Kolos. Something is exploiting the weakness the Lord Ruler built into the creatures and is using them as pawns. The troubles we've been suffering, the chaos following the collapse, it's not simply chaos. No more than the patterns of people who fall sick to the mists are chaotic. I know it seems obvious, but the important thing here is that we now know the method. We understand why they can be controlled and how they're being controlled. This really does feel like a tremendous victory for them.
We need Ellen to say that, though. It seems like the recipients of the message haven't quite grasped it yet, though. But Ellen seems to really have picked it up.
Yes.
He's seeing this as a positive, yeah.
Yeah.
The others are just like, okay, I get it. Cool. I understand.
But, I mean, this pattern is something tangible they can hold on to, whereas before it was just something impossible to grasp, to now we have a thread, and from it we
have proof.
Exactly. Yeah. And when there's proof, it's easier to believe, I suppose.
Yeah.
Elend monologues about how the more he thinks about it, the more he's believing that everything is connected. The Kolos, the Kandra, and the Inquisitors, knowledge of the third art of hemalurgy, and they acknowledge that they don't intend to make any more Kolos, which, good, I'm glad you said it, Elend. I figured, but I'm glad you said it. Elend drifts a bit in Vin's eyes. He looks out of an open tent flap, and he sort of starts thinking to himself. And I'm going to read this passage. It was something he'd once done, frequently, back when he spent more time on scholarship. He wasn't addressing Set's questions. He was speaking his own concerns, following his own logical path. I feel like this passage addresses two different things in a really, really wonderful way. One, considering what we get at the very end of the chapter where Vin cuts Elend off lest Ruin hear, I think is part of what's going through Elend's mind here as well, which is really, really good. At the same time, it also addresses Elend's "this is who you are" journey in this book, which is mimicking Vin's "this is who you are" journey in the first book. In the earlier part of this book, we had Elend going very hard at the "I must be the leader that Tindwyl taught me to be." In the last couple of chapters, we had Vin saying it's okay to be a little bit of both. And here we get Elend kind of reverting a bit back to who he was before. I really appreciated it here.
He's still that person. He's still got those characteristics. It's not like those completely went away.
Yeah. Ellen invokes that everything that's happening is part of a pattern, and he says, the less we see chaos and the more we see the pattern, the better we're going to be at understanding exactly what we fight and how to defeat it.
It's the only thing they can really learn from.
Yeah.
They can't speak to it. They don't have an evil monologue, being told to them.
Yeah.
So they have to look for it in the data.
Yep. We get a really good game plan from Ellen. Now that he understands what he's dealing with to a degree, he knows how to shift his focus and attention toward gleaning more information. He says, Norden, I want you to change the focus of your research. Up until now, we've assumed that the movements of the Kolos were random. I'm no longer convinced that is true. Research our old scout reports, draw up lists, and plot movements. Pay particular attention to bodies of Kolos that we specifically know weren't under the control of an Inquisitor. I want to see if we can discover why they went where they did. I'm a sucker for good planning.
Yep.
The meeting ends, and most everybody leaves. We have Elend, Vin, and Demio left. Demio wants to talk to Elend about the ostracism in the camp, and this is something that Vin wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Elend thinks it's not something to really worry about, but yes, the people who were sick for 2 weeks are still being ostracized.
Yeah, they're being called something called Mistfallen.
Yes, and that is such a cool name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, my prediction for a while has been the people who are sick the longest are probably going to have the strongest, most pure Mistborn powers when it is revealed that that's what's happening. If that's what's happening. Essentially what happens is Demio offers Elend a choice. We can try to reintegrate the Mistfallen into the rest of the army, or we can put them into their own group together. Whichever one of these you want to do will depend on how quickly you anticipate us being in a combat situation. It's a really well done passage. It's very cool. I love the almost video gamey choice of it. And that's when we get the name Mistfallen. Elend ultimately decides to have them organize into a new company because he doesn't want to attack Thadrix right away. He still wants to hope for their plan at the next ball.
But it still would be around 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Rather than months, yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't going to wrap up anytime soon, and I suspect that this new company will save the day somehow, in some way.
Yeah, regain that trust and respect from everybody else.
Yeah. As they're talking, Ham returns with a guy named...
okay, not done with it though. Hold, because it doesn't Elend at some point say, and you don't believe that, Demir? Like he checks you're not with them on that, Demir, and he's like, yes, because Demir obviously wants to lean into that being ostracized and be like, yes, I should be ostracized because I'm not good enough and all of that. And I think that's a good place to discuss the whole zealot discussion.
Sure. So
in the comments, yeah.
Okay, sure. Then let me read the passage quickly. We get Demio saying, there is a certain level of ostracism happening in the camp, my lady. Those of us who fell sick for 2 weeks rather than a day are being regarded with a measure of suspicion. Suspicion that you no longer agree with, right, Demio? Elend punctuated this remark with a stern, kingly look. Demio nodded. I trust your interpretation, my lord. It's just that, well, it is difficult to lead men who distrust you, and it's much harder for the others like me. They've taken to eating together, staying away from the others during their free time. It's reinforcing the division. So, that's the segment you just brought up, Kitty.
Mm-hmm. It's just there, the part that sticks out there is that Elend still has to say to him, hey, you don't believe in that. You don't agree with that, because what he had before was this idea that he is fallen and he's not a good enough believer, and that's why he was cast down. Yes, so there was discussion that I was using the word zealot too much for Demure, because he's just actually a normal religious person. But yeah, for somebody on the outside, i.e. me, or anyone who is watching a religion form in front of their eyes, the way it is with Calcia's religion, it seems like zealotry, because these people have, especially Demure, has seen that Calcia is a man. So the fact that he hasn't taken the same route that, say, Vin and the rest of the crew have, where we know that Calcia is just a man, and yes, we know he's a concept and whatever now. Demure, I call him a zealot because he's gone further with it. But yes, it's a normal religious belief. So yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. And yeah, we can continue.
So is there any part of you that would be able to accept, within the parameters of this world, not our world, that Kelsier is a god? Do you think that this religion that's forming is a false religion then?
Yeah, it's a false religion if it doesn't just view him as a concept and realize that he's just a man and a concept. It's not that he has power over the mists and things like that. They've run further with it than they should. Or yeah, then I would expect. But then not then I would expect, because it's what Calcia actually managed to make people believe. But yeah, the people that knew Calcia, they should know better than to believe that he can control the mists and etc. etc. They've got Vin that's right in front of them that has the same powers, and they're not treating her exactly the same. They're not thinking of her as a living god. They're like, yeah, sure, the heir of the survivor, but they're not like falling to their knees and saying, as heir of the survivor, why have you forsaken me? They're not done any of that stuff.
Gotcha.
Anyway, yeah, the word zealots, just in comparison to everybody else, yeah, quite a lot of zeal.
Does the word zealot carry with it an inherently negative connotation, or can zeal be good?
No, I think it is an inherently negative, especially the way I say it. I think it does sound quite negative, but I don't know. Maybe it's different for other people.
All right. I want to revisit the conversation that Demio had with Elend about Kelsier and him rising at the pits of Hathsin, because I vaguely recall him making this distinction between Kelsier the man and Kelsier the god. So I think I'll do that this week. Anyway, the meeting between the three of them is interrupted when Ham and a guy named Conrad return. Ham returns. Conrad is new. Basically, Elend is like, what's the word from Penrod? Where are the supplies that I've asked for? And Conrad's like, supplies? We came here to ask you for supplies.
Great switcheroo, but pretty dire as well.
Yeah. He basically explains that there are riots in the city and some of the food stores have been pillaged. I'm like, riots in the city? What the hell is going on, Penrod? I mean, we did get a glimpse of a less than good little village in the marsh POV, but I really did expect some degree of, I expected better from Penrod, at least a little bit.
Yes, some sort of management.
Yeah. Nevertheless, here we are. We get Elend being uncharacteristically upset. Elend cursed, slamming his fist against the command tent's table. Can Penrod not do the one thing I asked of him? All he needed to do was hold lands we already have secure. And Vin is concerned, and the soldier jumps. But then Elend calms himself and tells the soldier to rest, and then they'll talk more. So I'm worried for Elend there.
Yeah, look, I think him being angry and frustrated is a very normal thing in this situation. It's quite horrible news. So I'm okay with him losing it a little bit. He's human.
Yeah. Now, if I understand Save the Cat reasonably well, and I'm not at all convinced that I do, I think this structure would call this a false victory or midpoint raising of the stakes. we get the victory of they think they've figured out the statistics, or at least a big clue about the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
But then they suffer the defeat of knowing that they can't back down now because they don't have their home base anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like the stakes are much higher now.
Yes, now they have to be fully committed. And that's really what the next part of this chapter is about.
Mm-hmm.
We get a little bit of a time skip to later that night after Elend has spoken with Conrad. And Vin and Elend are basically recounting what Elend was told.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't much new information that we didn't get from that first discussion that they had, but we basically know that none of the messengers that Elend sent to Penrod made it, and we know that of the several folks that Penrod sent, only Conrad made it, and the only reason he was able to do it was because he did a trick where he basically used his horse as bait and then snuck around some Kolos.
Poor horses. My goodness. They're really getting a bad run in this story.
I agree. There have been many horse casualties. Regardless of whether or not rumors of the riots are true, Penrod won't be able to spare any soldiers. And also, speaking of rumors, I hope rumors don't get out to the rest of the soldiers that Luthadel has gone. Now, I don't necessarily know that's something you want to keep secret, but it could also damage morale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then them finding out that they were lied to damages morale as well. There's no trust.
So that's quite a tough situation for Elend to be in, and I would like to know what he ends up deciding.
Yeah.
But it's going to be another equalizer. Elend came in with a much stronger force. Now half of his Kolos army is gone, and now we've got prejudice against the Mistfallen, and now we've got, oh no, our home has been destroyed. It's going to be...
Help isn't coming.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. But Elend is taking this really, really wonderfully. Vin asks where that leaves them, and Elend says, with knowledge, our enemy has exposed himself, Vin, attacking our messengers directly with hidden groups of Kolos, trying to undermine our supply base in Luthadel. Our enemy wants this to appear random, but I see the pattern. It's too focused, too intelligent to be happenstance. He's trying to make us pull away from Fadrix. And Vin feels a chill, and she puts her finger on his lips to silence him, because Ruin can hear them. And we get the really, really great passage. Still, something passed between them. A knowledge that they had to stay at Fadrix, that they had to find out what was in that storage cavern, for their enemy was working hard to keep them from doing so. There's an element of this where it's like an outsider looking in might see madness, a sort of divine sense of purpose, but knowledge of the context is like, oh my god, it's so clear. Yes, this is right.
They're where they're supposed to be because this is where the enemy doesn't want them to be.
Exactly.
When it comes to Vin hushing him, I'm not sure how helpful it is right now, but they need to keep doing that more often.
Yeah.
Because he said enough in that sentence, and you just hope Ruin was busy focusing on something else.
Yeah.
But they need to start doing that a lot more. And maybe even saying the wrong thing to throw him off.
That's literally what I was just about to say. I was almost hoping Elend would be like, all right, we need to pack up and head back to Luthadel, I guess. Just while trying to communicate, like shaking his head in an emphatic no.
Yeah, and it makes you also wonder, like, can he see?
Yeah.
Does he see this? So, like, would he see that emphatic no?
Yep. We get the passage. More and more she was beginning to understand that there would be no falling back, no retreat to develop alternative plans. The world was collapsing around them, and Elend had committed himself to Fadrix. If they failed here, there would be nowhere else to go. So there is also a very, very big element in this chapter of parallel to Set and what he did in book 2.
Mm-hmm. There was no turning back, yeah.
Yep. Set left his secure home, quote unquote secure home, only to lose it, only to be committed completely to Luthadel, only to end up losing it. So we'll see what happens here, and maybe there'll be some meaningful bonding between Elend and Set.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe Set won't be just the foil for the whole chapter.
Yep. They both more or less feel completely and entirely committed to Fadrex. It's their only hope at the moment. And then Vin ruminates on how the mist is continuing to pull away from her. She tries reaching out to them, as she did at the end of book 1. She feels she should be able to. There's a strength to the mists trapped within them, but it wouldn't yield to her. It was as if something kept it back, some blockage perhaps, or maybe a simple whim on the part of the mists. So I wondered how much of this is that she is of ruin now. The way she thinks about how the mist should yield to her strikes me. I don't want to use the word parasitic, but parasitic in the way that we have learned that hemalurgy draws upon preservation. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I initially had that thought, but then I was like, is it that actually the mists do want to be near her, but it is actually Ruin that is this blockage?
Ooh, I like
Ruin's
that.
power is the blockage. Not just her tendency, but Ruin's power. So maybe her tendency does give Ruin more power to block her from the mists. And we've still got the idea that the mists are preservation. So, yeah, I think of Ruin as being that blockage.
I like that.
And then on top of that, I suppose we can do that. How ruinous is she?
And not necessarily in a bad way, to be clear, when I say she's of ruin, because the world needs an entropic element. There needs to be change. Yeah. Also, the phrase, or maybe a simple whim on the part of the mists, sort of gives the mist some degree of character. And we already think the mist is preservation. So, or at least I do.
Yeah, so do I.
So, interesting. An interesting thought, especially since we know there is living mist, so to speak, going around and seizuring people.
Yeah. Seizuring.
She closes her eyes and asks why the mist helped her that once but never again. Am I mad, or did you really give me power when I demanded it? There are no answers. She sighs and then goes to some tent. Thus ends the chapter.
A good chapter, as usual. Lots of recap, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I am really interested about the use of the word fusion and combining and seeing how far those words go, how well it really defines what is happening, because it does fundamentally shift my interpretation of hemalurgy.
I wonder if it's going to take root and become something else. Yeah. Something new about hemalurgy. Yeah.
Exactly. Anything else to say, Kitty?
Like the video.
If you like. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to That Don Kita if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel.
And subscribe to this channel because you already know it's great.
It would be greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Bye.